podcast to other enthusiasts. And of course, tune in again next week. My name is Tu Lee. I am the managing director at Sinowato Insights, a global management consultancy that helps organizations bring innovative and tech focused products and services to the transportation and mobility sectors. I write a free weekly newsletter that we pull many of our discussion topics from. You can sign up for it at sinoautoinsights.substack.com, which of course I encourage you all to do. Happy Thanksgiving. Lei, can you please introduce yourself?
Good morning. This is your co-host Lei Xing, former chief editor of China Auto Review, and this is episode lucky number 228. Yes, special Thanksgiving episode. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. Uh, Thank you to our listeners and viewers, first of all, for sticking with us, being patient. We haven't been consistent in terms of bringing out the weeklies, but um, last week you were traveling, so
We'll be better. We'll
uh,
be better.
Yeah, Thanksgiving. It's gonna be turkey, football, and some fireworks in the China EV and AV space. Right? And
There has been some fireworks already. So
the two items on the agenda today are the Wei Xiaoli earnings and the Guangzhou Auto Show. Well, I rephrased that as Ling Xiao Xiao Wei Li. Because we've heard all of the, I guess, the big five, and most recently this morning, the auto, which was kind of
which needs a
disastrous.
hug.
And we probably can start out there since it's fresh. I listened in on the earnings call, and from the get-go, you could sense Li Xiang did not want to talk about the Q3 earnings. Instead, he went into kind of where his company is going in terms of strategic positioning and in terms of management style. And the first thing he said, he's actually going back to the entrepreneurial or the startup management style rather than a professional management style. And then the other thing basically he said was, we're going to be an embodied AI company. And part of what they're doing is launching this M100 chip following Neo and Xpeng
And Huawei.
into their products. And I mean, and then he did not talk too much on the earnings call after that. I think it was a backwater to forget, basically.
It is stunning.
Yeah.
The
They swung to a loss, basically.
first time in 3 years, I think.
Something, yeah. Yeah.
And it's stunning the fall that Li Auto has taken over the last several months. And the mega challenges when that launched was a blip, and then Li Auto continued to grow and do well. But the i8 launch was a disaster. The mega fire ended up combining and compounding some of the challenges, but Li Auto is just on the wrong end of the momentum coming out of Xiaomi, Neo, Xpeng, the Hema, Huawei vehicles, the products. And so I had read this morning before jumping on that the Fudsters are out in full force trying to short the Li Auto stock now. So
Well, I mean, it was kind of sobering to see him or listen to him kind of not talk about the Q3 stuff and basically the company and himself, um, right? Which is, how it all of a sudden, I think their leadership in the EREVs, which he said they want to get back, their strategic goal in 2026 short term is to come back as the leader of EREVs. He said that in earnings call. That's the only thing, short term. So they're launching the 2026 L series as major refreshes. Probably a year. I mean, it's 12-month cycle. They just launched the 2025 L series at the Shanghai Auto Show, remember, right? So it's only 7 months. And uh, that reflects the kind of competition where things could go wrong or where things could just ramp up, like what happens with the Xpeng and Neo, Leap, um,
And like
Xiaomi.
looking forward a little bit, next year, Auto Beijing is going to be Li Auto's backyard, Xiaomi's backyard. So you should expect that they would want to bring the heat, just like Xpeng did for the Guangzhou Auto Show, because I'd spoken with a couple journalists from the UK and Europe who actually went to Guangzhou. One of them in particular went with Xpeng. So Xpeng actually only was at GZ Auto Show with their media group for a couple of hours. So he said he didn't get a chance to walk around. But yeah, so my thought is that April Li Auto might come pretty strong with announcements and their booth, because Beijing is right in their backyard. Um, so yeah, it and then looking back further, they owned the EREV space for several years, and could they have done more? Maybe. But if you look back, they had the L6, L7, L8, L9. So they had four products in the EREV space. I think they did pretty well for
Well,
themselves. And now it's extremely crowded on the low end from a MSRP standpoint, and even the mid to high end with the HEMA models coming out.
so one thing they will make a tweak or a change out into the future, 27, 28, is they're probably going to be going away from that Russian doll strategy of the L6789 looking roughly the same. I think they want different form factors. That's what I've heard. So we'll see that maybe in a couple of years' time. But it looks like the L series, at least next year, will remain kind of the that kind of Russian doll, but with updated design, of course. Um, but yeah, they're what's not if compare it to who's hot and who's not, right? At this moment in time, and but you know,
So let's circle back to, you said Li Xiao
零小
Xiao.
小位里, which is Leap Motor, Xpeng, Xiaomi, Neo, and Li Auto. So
Any other earnings?
The
Yeah.
L
Okay. Yep.
switched, right? The L used to be Li Auto at the beginning.
Right.
Now it's Leap Motor. Yeah.
They're firing
Um,
on cylinders.
Xpeng, yeah, I mean, you mentioned Xpeng, Guangzhou Auto Show. They're opening their own new home headquarters. So I think, yeah, they invited some media KOLs to check it out and a couple events. Also, they are the most aggressive in encroaching into the Li Auto EREV space because all 7 models launching next year are either EREVs of existing nameplates or entirely new ones with both BEV and EREV versions.
So these,
Um,
so in to put it simply, Xpeng is borrowing the BYD strategy. Whether you want an EREV or a BEV, we have it.
yeah, and I think that they're stressing, He Xiaopeng is stressing the not the EREVs of the past. Uh, they're the so-called super range extenders. Uh,
They effectively
yeah,
have
but
a complete battery pack. It's not, oh, this thing goes 30 miles or 40 kilometers. You can really just use the battery pack for, 200, 300, 200, 250 miles, I think. So
And then
Um,
it's the deepening of the chiplet, right? The chip usage of their Turing chip, and then the launching later next year of the robo versions. So they're very aggressive on the personally owned L4 side of it, as well as the robotaxi L4. Uh, and then not to mention the humanoid robot, right? That we've already talked about that made waves recently. And it looks like Li Auto is trying to catch up because Li Xiang, he talked a lot about this embodied AI uh, of robots, of cars being the first robots. So it seems to be there's some convergence of what Tesla is doing, what Xpeng is doing, um, what Li Auto wants to do. And Neo has not mentioned about any humanoid robot plans, but um, yeah, that's kind of where things are converging a bit, it
and
seems.
that's on top of dozens
But
of robotics startups in China already.
yeah, who are not in the EV space or the AV
Right.
space, but um, and um,
It's just starting to get interesting because everybody's going to have their own silicon.
Volkswagen,
And yeah,
well, with the help of Horizon Robotics, but um, you know,
so I was in the Bay Area in Sunnyvale. There's an accelerator capital firm that had hosted a conference. The last Monday was the Hyundai Plug and Play joint conference. It was a mobility conference, and I was a speaker, and we talked about the $30,000 car, and it was interesting. The next day was the start of their 2 or 3 day conference. It was a summit that brought together a lot of their portfolio companies and the startups that they support. Most of them had a .ai or an AI after their name. And pointing back to what Li Xiang said about embodied AI, I'm assuming it's also similar to what was the theme last week in Sunnyvale, which is physical AI. Because up to this point, all the AI that we've been talking about is software based, Chat GPT, things that help intangible stuff, right? Like help with market research. But now we're getting into what Li Xiang called embodied AI, or what a lot of the Silicon Valley startups call physical AI. And that's so there was a startup that um, was building robots to help in factories fold shirts. And it had raised like $300 million. Dyna was the company, and they were saying that. So you know how t-shirts are flat on the table. It has arms and fingers that can pick up the cloth and fold them. And they were saying the current time was about 60% as fast as a human. So just think of that one company and how many people are actually at factories building or making clothes in China, in Mexico, in Southeast Asia, South Asia. Now replace 2 or 3 people with one robot. So when we talk about physical AI, we're talking about a complete transformation of the employment, how people are employed in the future, because factory workers, they're completely at risk. And we've been to FE2. We've seen that there are automotive factories in China that already don't have a ton of people walking around putting parts on a vehicle. So
yeah, and then there's that Sunday robot that has made quite an entrance the last few days. Doing house chores, right?
yep.
Um, but not a full-bodied humanoid robot, right? It's got this kind of the wheelie on the bottom.
Yeah, it's really
Right? So
weird because you see these videos too, and I don't know if they're fakes or real because some of these robots are doing stuff that you're like, whoa, like dancing and like doing kung fu and stuff, and it's crazy. So
yeah, take a grain of salt, right? Of what you see. Seeing is not believing sometimes.
yeah, that because the on Chinese social there's a ton of videos with robots doing crazy stuff, and I actually don't know if they're real or not. So
Yeah. Um, so
anything
this
else
week,
notable about the earnings?
so Li Auto, we talked about Li Auto. Yesterday was Neil.
Mhm.
Happy birthday, by the way. They're 11 years old. So their earnings call was
Saw
on their
that.
11th birthday. I tweeted that it was good and bad, right? The bad stuff was really about, again, pushing that 50,000 run rate into early 2026. And they're saying it's because of the elimination of the trade-in and replacement policy that is affecting some of their envelope models. But I think still the biggest question mark is getting to that break even in Q4.
Which
Uh,
they still seem confident about.
they're confident, right? William Lee, he's confident. He reiterated, but it's gonna be awfully hard to swing somewhat of a close to a 3 billion renminbi loss
Right.
to a profit in one quarter. Now, the benefit of the doubt is that in Q3, these launches, Neo Day, all happened in Q3. So their SG&A, I looked at all the SG&As. Neo's SG&A is significantly, almost like 2x the other competitors. So if they can bring that down in Q4, it'll help. But at the same time, we're clearly seeing Neo moving the bulk of their sales to these bigger, hopefully more profitable vehicles. And they have three more coming next year uh, when they want to achieve full year break even. So there's two things on the plate: Q4 break even, 2026 break even, which are still big question marks. And if I personally believe it's hard to achieve. So I don't know.
For the non-accounting folks, SG&A stands for sales general and administrative, which is overhead costs.
Yeah, I think it was like 4 point something billion in Q3 for Neo. Uh, but
Well, they
I
have
mean
all
Q4,
those fancy Neo houses in so
yeah, I mean Q4. It's just a matter of executing, delivering. Right, they're planning 15,000. I think 40,000 ES8s in Q4.
that's a
So
monster number. That's a
yeah,
monster
they
number.
already did 10,000 in October, which means
This is the
15,000 in the
up
rest of the way
and
each
and
month.
to remind folks, this is the updated ES8 that has the much more competitive pricing.
Plus
I
MOL
think
90, and then those are the kind of the bulk of the sales, which is double-edged sword, right? I think Firefly is improving quite significantly, especially in the overseas market.
yeah, it could be a big year for
Yeah,
Firefly overseas.
I think their time was kind of interesting. Timing of the Firefly launching overseas. Maybe it could have worked better if they had the Firefly product earlier instead of putting it into the Neo brand first. But right, you build a brand, you build a distribution network, and you learn from it. And it looks like they're working more with partners, as what Xpeng is doing, as what Lead Motor, yeah,
BYD is doing.
BYD is doing, right? So
I think
yeah,
that's
so
the winning
that's
strategy in Europe.
Yeah.
You can't do it by yourself, and especially because of the immense diversity of the region, the taste, the language, the culture, and so for companies like BYD, Li Auto, and Neo and Xpeng, I
A-
think that's the right thing to do. So
and then Leap Motor, who just launched in Brazil and Chile, they can they have Stellantis to help with, which is something the other ones don't. Um,
Leapmotor has
yeah,
Stellantis in Latin America and South
yeah,
America too.
yeah, yeah. Uh,
But
so
I will say, Lay, that there should be some friction with Stellantis and Leapmotor, at least some of the Stellantis brands and Leapmotor in those emerging markets, because
mhm.
I'd mentioned this before in a previous pod, that Fiat is the number one brand in Brazil. I don't think they're going to want to give that up or share that spotlight with Leapmotor. And so, should we see a more licensing strategy from Leapmotor and Stellantis in some of the emerging markets where Stellantis already has strong brands? Maybe. But I'm sure Leapmotor will also want to create their own space and share in those regions, in those countries. So that's a that's something that dang, um what's his name? The CEO?
Antonio Filosa.
Antonio Filosa needs to
Yeah.
kind of sort out. So
And then Xiaomi. I mean, what can you say about Xiaomi? They've dodged every PR crisis, quality incident crisis possible, simply because they have this huge fan base that will support them any way possible. Uh, right? They've already done
or they
half a
have
million in cumulative production, and they're gonna get to 400,000 units, way past their 350 target, despite all the negativity. Go figure, right?
here's where we always we have to keep this in mind always. Xiaomi is not a startup. They've been
No,
established in the market for what, 10 years? Is it? 15.
15 years. 2010
15
is
years.
when, yeah, 15 years.
Their EV division is less than 4 years old, but the company is 15 years old. So this whole social media frenzy in China, they're pros at this. They probably have water armies already that they just shift over to the EV stuff. Whereas an Xpeng, a Li Auto, and Neo, they're experiencing all this stuff for the first time. And so I think that's where, at least in the China domestic market, they have a real advantage of, of kind of, let's say, massaging the narrative a little bit, the public
Well,
narrative.
they they have a better immune system than we do. Maybe that's a way to put it.
Yes,
But
yes.
the the interesting thing is, I think, going back to Neo a bit, is um, uh, when I talked to William at the Neo Day, he said something very interesting, that of this marathon, we're 5 to 6 kilometers into this marathon, and the next 5 kilometers going to that 10-kilometer point is going to be crucial. And he thinks it's going to be 10 years before we're certain who are the winners and losers. So what's happening with Li Auto and the headwind that BYD has faced goes back to also what He Xiaopeng said, that no one is safe. Uh, and the Ling Xiaoxiao Weili is kind of a good example of what happens within a short time. Um, Still in the warring period, right? Anybody's game. And speaking of Jidu, did you see that Jidu announcement
Mm.
of trying to bring in strategic investors? WM Motor is coming back. Uh, go figure.
As I believe Freeman sits in LA.
Or
I was
wherever he is. Not
I
in
was
China
told
right
he
now.
was, yeah, he's not in China. So one thing I will add about the 5-year, 10-year, who who we'll see, this also includes the legacy automakers and the brands, the stable of brands that Stellantis has, the stable of brands that Geely has, the stable of brands that you know um, Volkswagen Group has. There's no guarantee that, and this is where, for Westerners, our European listeners, and our American listeners and viewers, we have history with a lot of these brands. Lay, we've grown up with Chevy, we've grown up with um, Skoda, right? We've grown up with Volkswagen. I'm not saying Volkswagen brand will go away. I don't think that will go away, but these other brands, Peugeot, Citroen, who are a little bit on the fringe, does it make sense to have them still in the portfolio? Maybe if you want strong, in the case of a Peugeot or Citroen, maybe if you want strong French market share, but rest of the world, they seem to do okay. But other
I,
brands in their portfolio could take up some of that slack. So the reality
I,
is Stellantis and Volkswagen Group are going to have to reconcile that brand strategy across the 10, 12 different brands. And we talk about Chinese brands that might not make it. There's going to be European and American brands that don't make it either.
yeah, I agree. I think as a automaker group, I think it'll be around, but sooner or later they have to face what GM did back in the days. Pontiac is gone, right? Oldsmobile is gone, uh, right? They'll have to face the same decisions pretty soon, especially Stellantis. Um,
Another
it,
thing, Lei, is Daewoo was a Korean brand that
I,
GM bought. So
I,
there could be possibilities where there's a weak Chinese brand that actually has decent market share in China. I wouldn't I wouldn't take off the table a GM or Ford kicking the tires on a Chinese brand in
so
order to build that presence back up in the China market.
so at the same time that these Ling Xiaoxiao, Weili, they're still not out of the woods yet. We're still seeing emergence of new brands in the Chinese market. And this is probably where we can talk about the Guangzhou Auto Show a little bit. So two brands that were announced officially had to deal with Huawei. And
Yes.
they're what's called the Jing. One is Yijing
Let
from
me stop you
Dongfeng.
there real quick.
Yeah.
Let's explain what HEMA is. Harmony and Motion. I don't know what's the A stand for. Harmony and Motion.
Harmony Intelligent Mobility
Oh,
Alliance.
yes. Yeah. Harmony Intelligence Mobility Alliance.
Yes.
So
Which
that's Series Ito. That is it Luxeed?
Ito, Luxeed,
I think there's what,
Stellato,
four? Stellato.
Stellato, Maxtro, and then there's one more. There's the Shangjie, which is SAIC. So
And
there's five Jies in the HEMA alliance, and now we add two Jings.
okay. So
Uh,
Huawei says they don't want to be a car brand. They are a car brand. And
well, yeah.
these are their, let's say, proxies,
So
because anyways, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
yeah, so it's getting a bit more complicated with how Huawei is being involved. So the HEMA is where here's the difference. The HEMA are basically Huawei's heavily involved in the designing and the tech stack of these brands, and these brands are distributed through Huawei stores. The difference with the new Jings, the Yijing and the Qijing from Dongfeng and GAC Group, is that yes, Huawei still is heavily involved, but these distribution wise, they're controlled by uh, the automakers, the OEMs. So that's one major primary difference. These Jings, they're not going to be sold through the Huawei stores. And then there's always also the lower the Huawei inside, which is Avatar. Avatar has their own distribution channels, but Huawei is only providing certain components. Um, uh,
Avatar is
yeah,
owned by Chang'an.
yeah,
For those that are wondering.
and now the Guangzhou Auto Show, I think the biggest winner is basically Huawei Tianquan. Huawei Tianquan is basically the kind of the ADAS um, solutions that are not only going into these two Jings, but um, several of these new models that were being unveiled. Audi, for example,
Mm-hmm.
right? Uh, there's this Hype Tech. And then there's also the Huawei Harmony Space going into Nissan Tiana and the GAC Toyota BZ7. So Huawei continues to kind of expand into different realms, if you will, pun intended.
But here's the important thing to note. Audi struggles mightily in the China market. Nissan struggles mightily. They struggle as a global automaker. So Huawei sees opportunity with the weaker players. And the weaker players want to be relevant in the China market. So what do? They buy. I've always talked about this make or buy decision that the OEM leadership have, whether it's software, whether it's batteries, whether it's silicon. And what we're seeing is Huawei is really taking advantage of seeing who out there needs an injection of technology, the Nissans and the Audis, and they're going after them in the China market, probably with hopes that they'll be able to be in Nissan Audi vehicles outside of China. I think that's the long play. So
Yeah, I mean, Huawei sells, Momenta sells, Horizon sells. Um, some of the models that were introduced at the Guangzhou Auto Show, right? Buick, the Electra MPV, is Momenta inside. Um,
it's funny,
yeah,
Lei.
Audi ESUV, Momenta inside.
Momenta
So
is a monster. So and we can talk a little bit about the ADAS, but and the autonomous vehicle stuff, because I've been in two Waymo presentations over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and Waymo has dialed it way up from the standpoint of moving into different cities in the United States. It's really impressive. And so, um, what was I just talking about? Oh, Momenta just came from nowhere, and intelligent driving level 2 plus will be standard on most vehicles within, by 2028 in China. And what does that mean for the legacy automakers outside of China? Because in order to compete, and this is what I meant to say, I have Apple
it,
News, and like, I don't know if it was Apple News, but maybe it was X. But one of my feeds, it posted Ethan's review of the Buick MPV. It was funny, and I was like, "Nice, dude." And there was an article last week that said the best MPV that GM makes is not sold in the United States, and they were talking about the Buick. So
well, the best Ford Bronco is not made in the U.S. Maybe if
so
we talk about
yeah,
NEVs,
yeah.
right? So,
So
uh, and then the iCar, the Cherry, is using a lot of Horizon's HSD solution. That's another one. And then the Leap motor, right? You were asking about the big reviews. I think Leap motor A10 is quite significant for two because it's going to have LiDAR for under renminbi 100,000. And second, it's on the Qualcomm bandwagon in both the smart cockpit and the ADAS chips. So Leap Motor is more of the, we're not going to go into chip, not yet. We're going to depend on these partners. It's a different tactic, but
As we
yeah,
talk about LiDAR, Luminar has drama, has crazy
yeah,
drama.
yeah,
So right
yeah.
now,
Well,
and
there's also drama between the two leaders, Hesai and it's interesting that we touched on this because there's beefs going on between the top players,
yeah,
Hesai and RoboSense, and then Pony and WeRide. Uh, there's
I should
two
note
huge beefs
we
going
should
on right now.
note with the WeRide and Pony who did secondary listings in Hong Kong a few weeks ago,
Yeah,
their
yeah,
share prices tanked,
yeah.
and so
While they're expanding, right? WeRide just launched the Uber commercial robotaxi just today.
in
And they're reaching the so-called unit economics break even in the big cities, Pony and Guangzhou. But oh,
as I just visited LA for the auto show. I missed you, Lay, but it was not worth it for you to come. I got to see Alicia, so that was cool. And saw a few people, saw Ed Kim from Auto Pacific, so that was cool. But like the reunion will be at CES, I think.
I think I think LA Auto Show has become the Hyundai Kia Auto Show, right? I think they've owned that auto show since quite a few years now. For the vehicles that's intended for the North American market, basically. The
Yeah. So
Telluride.
maybe I can take a few minutes to talk about my week last week. Got to drive an M5, ITO M5 in
Yeah,
Sunnyvale for
what's up with that? I mean, what any secrets that you can end on what they're doing?
So I do this $30,000 car, and there's probably what 250, 300 people in this conference room at Plug and Play in Sunnyvale. And whenever I do a panel, there's always like people on LinkedIn just add me, hey, loved your chat, blah blah blah. And so this woman who works at ITO and
Yeah,
in the open innovation office, it's an open innovation office, and she was like, hey. I
take his
drive
first spin.
an M5. And have you driven one? I was like, no, but I was planning on doing that the next time I'm in China. And she's like, it's in the parking lot. And I was like, awesome. And it was 3 years old, and it would not look out of place in the United States. It doesn't really get too many software updates, and she can't use most of the apps because it's connected
Yeah,
to
yeah,
China.
yeah.
And having spoken with Ganesh, the US head for NEO, something's changed over the last few years in getting manufacturer plates and things like that for vehicles in Chinese vehicles on US roads is really difficult
They were
now.
Michigan plates or California plates?
The ITO plate was a California plate,
Okay, yeah,
but it was an M plate. It was a manufacturer plate.
right,
And
right.
so so that was cool. She let me drive it. We drove it around. Unfortunately, Silicon Valley traffic's really bad. Oh, and the other thing that I did was I did get to ride in a robo-taxi. Okay. So a
Which one?
cyber cab.
Cy-
It was a Model Y. It was a Model
Model
Y.
Y. So using
Um,
the Robotaxi app.
yeah, I wouldn't
So you
have
got one.
even thought of doing that. So thank you for pinging me. I did that. We went
Did you
like a 7-mile loop, basically.
did you have to wait at the beginning for the
I did it at around 9 p.m.
Oh, okay, because I heard that it's
So
quite difficult to get one.
yeah,
I
Waymo.
heard the wait
So
times are long.
So here's the crazy thing: Waymo is now can pick you up in San Jose Airport.
Yeah.
So it is Waymo is now entirely in the Bay Area.
Hmm.
Effectively, if you quickly look at a map, the revised map, w- I think there's more political reasons and not regulatory reasons, but particular to San Francisco International. Maybe some of the cabbies, maybe some of the other entities don't want Waymo to come to San Francisco International. I don't think it's a Waymo can't do it or is not capable. And what was cool was that in order to do the San Jose stuff, you had to be put on a wait list. But Waymo, the global head of their marketing, she presented and one of her last slides was a code to
Uh-huh.
jump the line. And so I did Waymo in we've done Waymo before, so
Sure.
just
Yeah.
like clockwork, it's same. And I wasn't flying out of SJC, so I didn't use it for the airport. But the robotaxi, unfortunately, it was nighttime, and so the
And
roads
there's a
weren't
driver, right?
too. Yeah, there's
There's
a
a driver
safety
on the
driver.
driver's seat, right? Yeah. So
I asked 3 questions, and her final answer so her first 2 answers were very, very broad, and then the 3rd answer was, "I can't really say too much about, the car." And so, y y it was fine. I think that, uh, it's gonna be
well, I
tough
mean
for
the
them.
yeah. I mean the whole point of robotaxi is you're not supposed to talk to anybody because there shouldn't be anybody in the car.
Well, yeah, but, I'm just freaking and
Yeah, no, no,
so
I'm
so I
saying, right? So you put a asterisk on Tesla's robotaxi, right? The so-called robotaxi,
yeah, and then,
until they remove the safety drivers. Then, um,
well, and
you know,
it's gonna be hard for them, or it's gonna take a I won't say hard. It's going to take a lot of investment for them to be a major player in Silicon Valley next to Waymo.
yeah,
Waymo,
and
it just seems like Waymo's gonna be in, like, 60 cities next year. Um
yeah,
They're gonna launch in Detroit. They're gonna collect data in Detroit, I think Q1 of 26, and then hopefully they'll launch the actual service end of 26 or early 27 or something like that. So they're entering Michigan or Detroit in January in order to collect data of the snow and of the
yeah. Same
roads
in they're going to
during
be in
wintertime.
Boston, which is closest to where I am. Right.
So,
Yeah.
and then I talked to emotional guy, and so maybe I'm gonna try to get us an experience an emotional car in Vegas, maybe. So we'll see if I can do that.
Well, yeah. I mean, Zook is already running in Vegas, so that's something else.
And in San Francisco now.
Yeah, yeah.
So and what else was notable about my trip? I saw a Tensor Auto vehicle at the LA Auto Show. The thing
They're
is
very weird
huge.
looking, but
It is 18 feet long. It is big. Y The pictures don't do it justice because
did
when
you
I walked
see
up to it, I was like,
mhm,
"Whoa." So,
what was Professor X anywhere present at all?
I did not see him. I did not see him. What was interesting was I did talk to the woman, one of the spokespeople. She said that they're going to be launching these vehicles through the Lyft app in
Yeah,
Europe early
yeah,
than
that
the
was
United
previously,
States.
announced, yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And so I don't know if Lyft is fronting the money because how is Tensor Auto paying for these cars? Is VinFast just a contract manufacturer, or is there some strategic partnership where VinFast is actually subsidizing the vehicle production? These are all open questions that I don't think they're really wanting to answer. But this version did not have rear view mirrors. They had video cameras. So if you think about the Audi Sportback
Hmm.
in China, how the rear view mirrors have have the camera view, that's what it was. And so, and I'm also not clear
Yeah,
whether or not this is a personal vehicle that you can put into. So if you buy this vehicle, Lay, can you, when you're at work, can you put it into the Lyft app and
that
you
was the
and
intent,
try to make money?
I believe,
So
uh, when this was announced. But and then also recent videos of Zeekr RTs surfacing in San Diego, which means next year we'll likely be seeing them on the roads commercially
yeah.
operating. 4 years, 4 years after the debut in LA. Um,
So
Finally,
here's
they're
here's a,
going to make it work. Yeah.
here's
San
another
Diego, I think.
thing. But here's another thing, Lay. I saw an Ionic 5
Yeah, that's the
for
other
Waymo.
form. Yeah,
I think you're absolutely right. It's a fallback because there's been enough articles about the Zeekr made Waymo level 4 robotaxi, the China Zeekr made. So how much blowback are they going to get? Or how are they dealing with it? Does this become a deal breaker for them? Because I don't know. I have, because we know that the RT6
well,
that Baidu has in China is less than 300,000 RMB. So it's less than $45,000. How much is Waymo paying for that? Because Zeekr is shipping that as an analog product, basically an EV without any hardware software stack. When it when it arrives to the United States, that's when Waymo adds all its
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
nuts and bolts
yeah.
hardware software stack. And so I think Waymo is hoping that that is clear, and the controversy just kind of goes away.
Well, we're probably going to be hearing more soon because I noticed Geely Auto and Waymo are both exhibiting at CES. So maybe there's be some official announcement.
Oh,
Uh,
maybe we'll get to
forthcoming.
share a pint with our friend
Yeah,
Ash.
yeah, yeah.
So
But
then,
interesting times. I think at the end of this year, the robotaxi L4 topic, I think on both sides of the Pacific, is really kicking up a notch. At the
I
same
think
time,
2026 is going to be the year of the
yeah.
AV. So
And then speaking of the L2 plus thing, I'm actually looking forward to hearing what Rivian is going to talk about in their autonomy and AI day in like 2 weeks, because they seem to be betting big on what Tesla's FSD is trying to do. So I think they're the right. We think about the startup space. These are really the two companies in the U.S. compared to dozens, if not hundreds, of companies that are trying to do the same thing
and in China, it's
in China,
also
right?
tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. With
Yeah, the
Waymo,
Momenta
Waymo
and stuff,
develops their own
Horizons.
lidar, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. The lidar companies. Yeah, exactly.
in China, the AV companies, the AV startups, the asset light AV startups, they still all use Chinese lidar, Chinese sensors, and that is more and more becoming limited or restricted for US based autonomous vehicle stacks or intelligent driving stacks and autonomous vehicle companies, which creates challenges. So
By the way, one company in the tech space in that vertical is going kaput in China. Seems to be going in kaput. The company is called Hamo AI.
Hamwa, yeah,
The Great
that
Wall
is the Great
Motor
Wall. Great Wall
invested. I think they're done
for
because
now,
they yeah, for now.
until Daddy Warbucks comes and says,
Um,
I wanna start this zombie back up." So
yeah, the founders came from Baidu. Now Great Wall Motor. Remember, they invested into Deep Route. So they're actually using deep route tech in their ADAS. Uh,
So we knew Deep Rod was going to announce a partnership with Great Wall a while back
yeah.
before they actually announced it. So no surprises there. And I just don't know. And this is, to me, this is the existential conundrum, Lay. The traditional automotive companies, they know the heavy burden, the financial burden that is needed to become a player in the intelligent driving and autonomous vehicle space. And I think they're like, no mas, we can't do this. Um, because a couple of the underlying things
The
that is really important is how much data centers cost, how much energy you're going to use by powering these autonomous vehicles and things like that. And I'm talking more on the power that's needed to support the data centers, not the EV charging stuff. So
It's interesting that the two companies that have formed out of these smaller, well, not smaller, but um, state-owned, kind of locally state-owned. So Great Wall Motor, Cherry. Remember, Cherry had kind of a spin-off of their ADAS company headed by the former head of autonomous driving at Expo. The lady by the name of Dr. I forget her name,
I
but
want to say
she's,
it's Han. It's not Han.
yeah. These have failed, interestingly enough. While I think the startups, right, the Neo, Expo, Li Auto, they've largely have maintained their kind of the position, and then the rest of it is really just make or buy, and it's really buy
The
from
only
Momenta,
decision is
right?
buy. The
Yeah,
only decision is buy.
yeah,
And when you and I say buy, or when I say buy, it means license or partner. Because I don't think most of these car companies could afford to buy a Pony or a WeRide or something like that. So, hey, the last thing I'll bring up with you before there's a couple of comments here that I'll read up, but there is really a Game of Thrones going on in General Motors, man. Have you seen that? Barish is gone. So David
the
Richardson left. Barish left.
you're
So
talking about the AI stuff or the
yeah, so the head of AI left. He was only there less than a year, 6, 7 months. But I think Sterling Anderson is really cleaning house.
mm,
And Doug Field also cleaned house, I think,
yeah.
when he joined Ford. So this is not unusual. And then there was one other point I wanted to make. There's a German article, and I'll send it to you after we get off, that said there's tension between Rivian and Volkswagen. And you, I'm glad to hear that, because if if everybody's getting along, then nothing's getting done. Because and I was told that this is when articles like this pop up, it it's a signal from the management to the board, because insiders leak things. There's a method to that madness, because they want to communicate things to the board. And so and then um, some of these tweets I've seen recently where it's like, oh, we recently drove the Hyundai Ioniq 5N and it is an amazing car. And I'm like, do these people live in caves? Uh, how are you just figuring this out? And the it just feels like Volkswagen needs to reset their culture and get much more competitive. There are way too many people that are comfortable in their positions 20 years in, that need to go. And let the newbies, because you and I know a ton of people that are mid-level that are super smart at these companies, that the guys, the vice presidents that are 40 years that we also know, but are much less flexible. Honestly, Lay, if you're 60 years old or 55 years old and you have 3 years before you retire, 4 years, the last thing you want to do is reset your entire division or department. And so this is where competition and ambition needs to really trump longevity and seniority, in my opinion. So,
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
ha-
Volkswagen, there's been some headlines about they're doing product development entirely in China at a much faster pace with the recent test center, right? Uh, which I think something that caught my eye was without the approval of headquarters. Basically, that's what I understand it to be, which means uh, it's it would be unheard of, right? Back in the years that you can operate autonomously as if you were a independent company operating in a certain country. That's where Volkswagen's headed. They're kind of forced to do it. If they don't, almost like Lexus, right? Lexus setting up that plant in Shanghai is kind of a way to try. I'm going to try to do what has been, proven successful, but that does not guarantee success. But if you don't do it, you're dead anyways.
I
So that's right.
so so you're referring to a couple of articles this week that said that I think it's 40% cheaper or faster. One of the two.
Forty
I think
percent,
it's
yeah,
40%.
40%, yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Um, and on top of that, they said that the Chinese built vehicles will be exported to everywhere but Europe for Volkswagen. And this should surprise no one. You and I have talked about this ad nauseum, where Chinese companies don't use China as an export hub. All companies use China as an export hub, and that is going to continue. But let's go to comments. Zachary 1701. Happy Thanksgiving, boss. Lee and Lay. um,
the
isn't
LL.
Neo kind of
Uh,
slow to push out its refresh models to overseas markets compared to its domestic peers?
uh, well, apparently and realistically, yes. But remember, the the priority is breaking even, and in order to do so, you have to give up on something and focus on something else. Bless you. uh, so, right, the priority is delivering these more profitable vehicles, executing, delaying the launches of. I mean, the L80 is not. I don't know how much lower it's going to be priced below the L90. But they don't want to launch the L80 right now because L90 there's a backlog that they want to bring these to market. And
And that's the right
overseas,
decision. To me,
yeah,
that's the right decision.
and overseas there's some tweaks about product priority, right? They Lee talked about it. William Lee talked about putting Firefly as a priority, then Envo, then uh, Neo. So I think that's in process, in progress. Which, right, that's kind of the answer to the question. Yeah. Um,
And remember, to piggyback off of your last point, when there are three brands, there's three mouths to feed. There's three entities that need R&D funding, and so when you had limited capital, you have to make some tough decisions. And the Firefly team is probably like, look, we have a huge opportunity in the European market, so we should be first. And the other thing too is Europe is not China, and I don't know if there's a ton of value in refreshing your model so quickly in the European market as it is in China. And so this becomes more of an operational challenge, because
yeah.
if you're two model years behind or a model year behind in Europe, and you're looking at almost 2 model years ahead in China. Now it's like the supply chain guys go, okay, then we need to buy silicon that's this old versus the newest silicon, or vice versa. And that creates more complexity in the supply chain. But yeah, Neo's actually doing just okay in European markets, anyways. In cars like or SUVs like the ES8, there's a limited market. There's not many large SUVs that are sold in Europe relative to the US and China. Um, Apreza Rinaldi, who has been on the show a few times. So thanks for continuing to be a part of our family, Apreza. Many new cars are EREVs, but EREV sales have actually declined in China.
That is correct. That is exactly what William Lee pointed out in earnings. I think he shared some stats of EREVs actually negative growth in certain periods of the year. But tell that to He Xiaopeng, right? Tell that to Lei Jun. They're launching the U9, which has a EREV.
And remember that BYD, more than 40% of their sales is PHEV. They're not EREVs, but they're PHEV. So I'm categorizing them together as a general thing.
And then add on top of that, you have Li Xiang saying our strategic goal is to be back as the leader of EREVs next year. It's kind of hard to believe that actually this year Li Auto sales will be down compared to 2024.
Well,
So in
Tesla's
order
the same thing.
yeah, so next year they want to grow back, and I think EREVs remains a very important part of that narrative.
Apreza, let me ask you: do you think they're chasing a ghost? Do you think that it's going to continue to shrink? If you're still on, we'll probably get off in the
I mean,
next
He
minute or
Xiaopeng,
so.
I think he
So,
shared some stats of the X9 EREV, Super EREV. 60% of the orders came from northern China, if I remember
mm,
correctly, which is an important
like
region for
Dongbei.
the EREVs. Yeah, for the EREVs. So, right.
Dongbei is notoriously has notoriously harsh winters.
Yeah.
So I don't have anything else, Lay, and those were the only two comments. But this was a good show. We should be back, same bat time, same bat channel next Friday.
Yep,
Um,
I am.
but again, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and apologies for being a little bit inconsistent the last 6 or 7 weeks. We'll try to be better. And remember, we will have a year-end show, and then looking ahead to 26 and 27 show in the coming weeks. So please remember to
Yeah,
tune
we
in.
have this is the last show in November and then 4 weeks left in December. So
Crazy. It is. Oh, hold on a second. Diane Wallace, EV. Happy Thanksgiving. Nice. Happy Thanksgiving, Diane.
Thanksgiving.
Everyone, good morning,
Thank
good
you.
afternoon, good evening. For you Americans, enjoy Turkey Day. Go Lions. I'm going to be at the game tomorrow with my family. Looking forward to that.
I'm going to be watching, looking for you.
Yes. All right. Everyone.
Go Pats. Go Pats.
We'll see you all next week.
Yeah.